The international airport was busy that summer morning. Among the many hurried travelers, a peculiar figure stood out, an elderly man, dressed in simple clothes and a worn straw hat. His name was Isaiah Thompson, a rural California farmer carrying not only a battered suitcase but also news that would forever change the course of his life. Isaiah walked slowly towards the boarding gate, observing his surroundings with curiosity. It was her first plane ride, and despite her anxiety, her wrinkled brown eyes sparkled with excitement. When he arrived at the departure counter, he presented his ticket with hands calloused from hard work on the land. The attendant, a friendly young woman, smiled when she noticed his confused expression. "First class, Mr. Thompson. What a special trip you must have ahead of you," she exclaimed, handing him his boarding pass. Isaiah scratched his head, disconcerted. "First class. There must be some mistake, lady. I just wanted a regular ticket." The attendant checked the ticket again and confirmed, "There's no mistake, sir. Your seat is first class. Enjoy your trip." Still perplexed, Isaiah headed towards the boarding area, not knowing that this trip would be more than just his debut in the air. On the other side of the lobby, an elegantly dressed woman attracted attention wherever she went. Samantha Martinez, a well-known socialite from Sao Paulo, walked through the airport as if parading on a catwalk, with her high heels echoing on the shiny floor. Samantha was the complete opposite of Isaiah. While he exuded simplicity and humility, she personified luxury and arrogance. His blue eyes, cold as ice, critically examined each person who crossed his path. Upon arriving at the first-class boarding gate, Samantha was greeted with reverence by the airport staff. She barely glanced at the staff, busy checking messages on her state-of-the-art smartphone. It was then that fate decided to play with both of them. Isaiah and Samantha ended up side by side in the first-class boarding line. The characteristic smell of the farm, permeated through Isaiah's simple clothes, did not go unnoticed by Samantha. Her delicate nose twitched in an expression of disgust, and she couldn't help but say acidly, "My God, what's that smell? It looks like someone brought an entire stable onto the plane." Isaiah, who until then had been watching the aircraft through the terminal window, turned to Samantha in confusion. "Did you say something?" Samantha looked him up and down, her lips curling into a sneer. "Yes, I think you made the wrong queue. Economy class is further along." No, Isaiah replied politely, showing his boarding pass. "The girl at the front told me that I belong right here." Samantha's face contorted into a mixture of disbelief and disgust. "This is unacceptable. How can someone in your condition be allowed to travel in first class?" Without waiting for a response, Samantha quickly approached one of the airline employees. His voice, previously just dismissive, now took on an imperative tone. "I need to speak to the person in charge immediately. There is a serious error going on here." The young employee, intimidated by Samantha's authoritarian stance, stammered a response. "Yes, ma'am. I'll call the supervisor." As the drama unfolded, Isaiah remained silent, embarrassed and confused by the situation. He had never imagined that his first plane ride would become such an ordeal. Minutes that seemed like hours to Isaiah until the airline supervisor arrived, accompanied by 2 security guards. Samantha immediately approached, her voice filled with indignation. "This guy cannot travel in first class. Look at him, he stinks of animals and makes everything dirty. I demand that he be removed immediately." The supervisor, a middle-aged man with a tired expression, tried to calm the situation. "Ma'am, I understand your concern, but if the passenger has a valid ticket..." Samantha interrupted him sharply. Do you know who I am? I'm Samantha Martinez. My husband is one of the largest shareholders of this airline. If you don't resolve this now, I guarantee there will be consequences. The supervisor's face paled as he recognized the name. He turned to Isaiah, who was watching everything with a mixture of sadness and resignation. Sir, I regret to inform you, but we will have to relocate you to economy class. It is company policy to ensure the comfort of all passengers. Isaiah, feeling the weight of the gazes around him, just nodded. It's okay, mister, I don't want to cause anyone trouble. As he was escorted out of the first-class area, Isaiah could hear Samantha's triumphant voice, finally. Now we can have a civilized trip. The old farmer was relocated to a cramped seat in the back row of economy class. As he settled in, he took a crumpled envelope from his pocket. Inside it, the results of his medical exams and a diagnosis that gave him only a few years to live. Isaiah sighed, putting the envelope away again. This trip to New York, which should have been the beginning of a new phase in his life, began in a bitter way. But he was a simple and wise man, who knew that life sometimes offers lemons, and with lemons, he thought with a resigned smile, you can always make good lemonade. The plane took off, carrying with it not only passengers, but also the beginning of a story that would intertwine destinies in unexpected ways in the luxury of first class. Samantha savored her momentary victory, without imagining how her actions that day would reverberate in her future. In economy class, Isaiah closed his eyes, dreaming about the plans he had for his son and the future of his farm. 6 months have passed since the airport incident. In a charming cafe in the heart of New York, a young woman waited anxiously, her fingers drumming on the marble table. Sophia Martinez, Samantha's daughter, was the image of discreet elegance, so different from her mother's ostentation. His green eyes roamed the room restlessly, until they finally fell on the figure entering through the door. A smile lit up her face when she saw Isaac, her boyfriend of almost a year. Isaac Thompson was a tall. Truly in love, Isaac began after a moment's pause. There's something I've been wanting to tell you for a while now. Sophia leaned over intrigued. What is it? Isaac hesitated for a moment, as if choosing his words carefully. It's about my family. You know I don't talk about them much, but I think it's time for you to meet my father. Sophia's face lit up. Really? That would be wonderful. I've always wanted to meet your family. Yes, continued Isaac, but my father is not exactly what you might imagine. He is a simple man, a farmer. Sophia frowned, confused. But didn't you say your family had a business in the agricultural sector? Isaac smiled, a little nervous. Yes, that's true, but my father prefers a simpler life. He personally manages our main farm in California. He's a man of the land, you know. Sophia's expression softened. That sounds lovely, Isaac. I can't wait to meet you. Meanwhile, across town, in a luxurious office at the top of a skyscraper, Samantha Martinez was immersed in a heated argument on the phone. What do you mean the Thompson farm isn't for sale? She practically screamed. Offer more. Everyone has their price. Samantha slammed the phone down, her frustration evident. She got up and walked to the panoramic window, observing the city that stretched out at her feet. Her real estate empire was about to close the biggest deal in its history, the construction of a luxury resort in the interior of California. Everything was perfect, except for one detail: Thompson Farm, a strategically located piece of land, which refused to sell. Alberto, she called to her assistant, prepare the car. Let's pay a visit to this Thompson farm. I want to see for myself what kind of fool refuses an offer like ours." While Samantha was preparing for her unexpected trip, Isaiah Thompson was at his farm, watching the sunset from his porch. His thoughts were far away, remembering the conversation he had with his son earlier that day. "Father," Isaac had said, "I want you to meet someone very special to me." Isaiah smiled as he remembered the sparkle in his son's eyes. It was the same sparkle he saw in his late wife's eyes. "Of course, my son. When? This weekend we can go there." Now, looking at the horizon painted orange and pink, Isaiah felt a mix of emotions: joy for his son, anxiety for the meeting, and a hint of sadness when thinking about the little time he had left. His mind wandered to the events of the last few months: the trip to New York, the humiliating incident at the airport, and the news he had received from the doctors. All of this led him to make important decisions about the future of the farm and his family. Isaiah had dedicated every moment since then to perfecting his latest invention, a revolutionary irrigation system that could transform arid lands into fertile fields. It was his legacy. Something that would change not only his family's future, but potentially the lives of thousands of farmers across the country. As the sun disappeared below the horizon, Isaiah could not imagine how the events of the next few days would intertwine his fate with that of the woman who humiliated him months ago. Back at the cafe in New York, Sophia and Isaac were finishing their meeting. "Then it's settled," Sophia said, smiling. "This weekend we are going to visit your father at the farm." Isaac nodded, a mix of excitement and nervousness in his voice. "Yes, I can't wait for you to meet him. He's an incredible man, Sophia, simple, but with a wisdom that you don't find in many people out there." Sophia squeezed Isaac's hand affectionately. "I'm sure I'll love you. And who knows, maybe soon we can introduce our families. My mom will be so excited to get to know you better." Isaac hesitated for a moment, a shadow passing across his eyes. Of course, one step at a time, right?" As the couple said goodbye with a tender kiss, neither of them could predict the storm that was brewing on the horizon: Samantha, determined to get the farm at any cost. Isaiah was preparing to welcome his son and his girlfriend, while Isaac and Sophia, lost in their love, were oblivious to the fact that their worlds were about to collide in a dramatic way. Fate, always unpredictable, had cast its dice, and now it remained to be seen how each piece of this intricate puzzle would fit together and what the consequences would be when the truth came to light. Night fell over New York, bringing with it the harbinger of tumultuous days that would forever change the lives of everyone involved. The stage was set, the actors were in position, and the drama was about to unfold. The sun had barely risen when Samantha Martinez left New York for the California countryside. Her personal driver drove the luxurious SUV through the winding roads, while she, in the back seat, typed furiously on her tablet, reviewing documents and strategies for the negotiation ahead. Alberto, his assistant. Samantha called her assistant, who was sitting next to her. "Are you sure we have all the information about this farm?" Alberto, a thin, middle-aged man with thin-rimmed glasses, nodded nervously. "Yes, ma'am. Thompson Farm has been in the family for generations. The current owner is Isaiah Thompson, a 68-year-old man, widower, who has only one son." Samantha smiled, a predatory gleam in her eyes. "Perfect. A lonely old farmer will be no match for me. By the end of the day, that land will be ours." Meanwhile, at Thompson Farm, Isaiah woke up to the sound of the rooster. Despite his age and the illness that slowly consumed him, he maintained his routine of getting up early and personally supervising the start of work on the farm. That morning, however, there was a different energy in the air. Isaac would arrive in a few hours, bringing with him the girlfriend he wanted so much to introduce. Isaiah smiled as he thought of his son. Isaac was his greatest joy, the reason he continued to fight, even in the face of the grim diagnosis he had received. Walking through the lush green fields, Isaiah stopped to look at his latest project, the revolutionary irrigation system he will develop. The sight filled his heart with pride and hope. That invention could change the future of agriculture in the country, and he couldn't wait to share it with Isaac. The morning progressed, and soon "Good morning," said Samantha, formally. "I'm looking for Mr. Isaiah Thompson. Before we continue, I need to tell you something amazing. Do you want to attract a lot of money into your life? Learn how to do it with the secret content that I will leave in the first pinned comment, and start transforming your financial life. Let's continue. I'm Samantha Martinez, CEO of Martinez Emprendimientos." Isaiah immediately recognized the woman who had humiliated him at the airport months ago. His smile faltered for a moment, but he decided to remain cordial. "It's really me, ma'am. How can I be of service?" Samantha, not realizing she was in front of the man she had belittled, launched into her well-rehearsed speech about the advantages of selling the farm to her company. She spoke about astronomical figures, regional development and unique opportunities. Isaiah listened patiently, his face a mask of calm. When Samantha finished, he simply said, "I appreciate your interest, Mrs. Martinez, but this farm is not for sale. She is my family's legacy, and I intend to keep it that way." Samantha's face contorted in a mixture of surprise and irritation. She wasn't used to taking "no" for an answer. "Mr. Thompson, perhaps you do not understand the magnitude of the offer I am making. With that money, I could live comfortably for the rest of my life." Isaiah smiled softly. "Mrs. Martinez, life is not measured just by comfort or money. This land is my history, my present and my son's future. There is no price to pay for this." Before Samantha could retort, the sound of another car approaching caught everyone's attention. It was Isaac arriving with Sophia. The young couple got out of the car, looking confused at the scene before them. Isaiah, Samantha, Alberto, and the driver, all standing in the middle of the farmyard. "Father," called Isaac, approaching cautiously. "Everything is fine." Isaiah smiled broadly when he saw his son. "Isaac, I'm glad you're here." He turned to Samantha, who was watching the scene with increasing discomfort. "Mrs. Martinez, if you'll excuse me, I have guests to receive. As I said, the farm is not for sale. Have a good trip back." Samantha, with the direct rejection, was unable to respond immediately. His eyes moved from Isaiah's serene face to Isaac and then stopped when he recognized his own daughter, Sophia. Samantha, in disbelief, exclaimed, "What are you doing here?" Sophia, equally shocked to see her mother in this unlikely place, stammered, "Mom, I came to meet Isaac's father." A heavy silence fell over the group, each processing the unexpected implications. For Samantha, a painful expression of understanding began to form. Isaiah was the first to break the silence with a calm that masked a storm of emotions, saying, "Well, it looks like we have a lot to talk about. Why don't we all go in and have a coffee?" The farmhouse living room, normally welcoming and peaceful, was filled with palpable tension. Isaiah, Isaac, Sophia and Samantha were around the dining table, with cups of steaming coffee in front of them, but no one dared to take the first sip. Alberto and Samantha's driver had been discreetly let go, leaving the two families to deal with the delicate situation. Isaac was the first to break the oppressive silence. "Can someone explain to me what's going on here?" His voice trembled slightly, torn between confusion and growing understanding. Isaiah sighed deeply. His eyes moved between the faces around the table. Isaac began, "It seems that fate has decided to play a trick on us and bring our lives together in an unexpected way." Samantha, who until then maintained an expression of shock and indignation, finally found her voice. "Sophia, did you know that? Did you know who your boyfriend's family was?" The last word was said with a hint of fear. Sophia, still stunned by the situation, shook her head. "No, Mom. I had no idea." Isaac never went into details about his family. He just said his father was a farmer. Isaac nodded, confirming. "And truth. I wanted Sophia to know my father for who he is, not for what we have or don't have." Samantha snorted in disbelief. "Not because of what you have, Isaac. Do you have any idea of the value of this property? What potential are you wasting here?" Samantha interrupted Isaiah, her voice surprisingly firm. "I think there are more important things for us to discuss right now than the monetary value of this land." The use of her first name took Samantha by surprise. She stared at Isaiah, really observing him for the first time since arriving. Something in his eyes and the way he carried himself awakened an uncomfortable memory. We've met before, haven't we?" she asked, a tone of uncertainty in her normally confident voice. Isaiah nodded slowly. "Yes, Mrs. Martinez. We met a few months ago on a flight to New York, although I must say the circumstances were not the most pleasant." Samantha's face turned pale as she remembered the incident at the airport. The realization of what he had done and for whom he had fallen like a bucket of cold water. Sophia, realizing the seriousness of the situation, looked anxiously between her mother and Isaac. "Were you the one who humiliated my father on that flight?" His voice trembled with suppressed emotion. Samantha, for the first time in many years, found herself speechless. The arrogance that normally enveloped her like armor seemed to have dissipated, leaving her exposed and vulnerable. Isaiah, seeing the emotional turmoil unfolding in front of him, decided to take matters into his own hands. "What happened in the past happened," he said in a calm, considered voice. "We can't change it. What matters now is how we deal with the present and the future." He turned to Isaac and Sophia, who looked on the verge of tears. "You two love each other, that is evident to anyone who sees you together. Don't let other people's mistakes or prejudices affect how you feel about each other." Samantha, still struggling to regain her composure, looked at Isaiah with a mixture of confusion and reluctant admiration. "How can you be so understanding after what I did?" Isaiah smiled sadly. "Mrs. Martinez, life is too short to hold a grudge. Believe me, I know this better than anyone." He paused, considering whether he should share his secret. Deciding that honesty was the best course, he continued. "I was diagnosed with a rare disease. The doctors only gave me a few years to live." The revelation fell like a bomb in the room. Isaac, who already knew about his father's condition, bowed his head, fighting back tears. Sophia gasped, covering her mouth with her hands. Samantha, in turn, felt as if the ground had been ripped from under her feet. I didn't know," she murmured, all her previous bravado gone. Isaiah nodded. "Few know, but that's why every day, every moment, is precious to me. That's why this farm, this legacy I want to leave Isaac, means so much. It's not just about land or money, Mrs. Martinez. It's about family, about creating something that will last beyond ourselves." A heavy silence fell over the room as everyone digested Isaiah's words. Isaac, gathering his courage, began to speak. Finally, Isaac spoke. "Father, I want you to know that I intend to continue your work here on the farm, your inventions. I will do everything so that his legacy lives on." Sophia, with tears in her eyes, shook Isaac's hand. "And I will be by your side no matter what." Samantha watched the scene, feeling completely out of place. His entire life had been built around business, profits, and social status. Seeing the love and dedication in that simple family made her question her own priorities. She began, her voice trailing off. "I apologize for what happened on the plane, for trying to buy your land, for everything. Isaiah looked at Samantha, seeing past the ruthless businesswoman facade. "I accept your apology, Mrs. Martinez. I hope we can all learn something from this situation." He stood up slowly, walking to the window. The afternoon sun bathed the farm's fields in a golden glow. "Come," he said, gesturing for everyone to come closer. "I want to show you something." As the group gathered around the window, Isaiah began talking about his innovative irrigation system, about his plans to expand the farm's production in a sustainable way, about the bright future he saw for the land. There, in that moment of actions and reconciliations, something began to change. Samantha, for the first time, saw beyond the monetary value of land. Isaac and Sophia felt their love strengthened by adversity, and Isaiah, watching everyone, felt a peace he hadn't experienced in a long time. The future was still uncertain, with many loose ends to be tied up, but that afternoon, in the living room of a farm in the interior of California, the first steps were taken towards mutual understanding and, who knows, healing wounds have long been open. In the weeks following the turbulent encounter at the farm, a tense calm settled between the Thompson and Martinez families. Isaac and Sophia, determined not to let circumstances undermine their relationship, decided to dive headfirst into farm projects. One sunny morning, Isaac walked through the fields with Sophia, excitedly explaining the details of the irrigation system developed by his father. "Look, Sophia," he pointed to a series of nearly invisible pipes that snaked through the ground. "This system not only saves water, but also distributes nutrients more efficiently. It's revolutionary." Sophia, who had always lived in the city, was fascinated. "It's amazing, Isaac. Your father is a genius." Meanwhile, at the headquarters of Martinez Emprendimientos in New York, Samantha was deep in thought. The encounter at the farm had affected her more than she would like to admit. The image of Isaiah speaking so passionately about his land, even in the face of a terminal illness, never left his mind. "Alberto," she called her assistant, "cancel all my appointments for tomorrow. I'm going on a trip." The next morning, to everyone's surprise, Samantha Martinez was back at the Thompson farm. This time, however, there was no arrogant stance or high heels sinking into the earth. She wore clothes more suited to the rural environment and carried an expression of genuine curiosity. Isaiah greeted her on the porch, a cup of coffee in his hand. "Mrs. Martinez, what a surprise. To what do we owe the honor?" Samantha hesitated for a moment before responding. "Mr. Thompson, I came to learn about the farm, about your work. If you are willing to teach me, of course." The old farmer raised his eyebrows in surprise, but a gentle smile formed on his lips. "Well, in that case, let's start our class. And please call me Isaiah." Over the next few hours, Isaiah guided Samantha around the farm, explaining every detail of the irrigation system, farming methods, and plans for the future. Samantha listened intently, asking questions and taking mental notes. "You know, Samantha," Isaiah said as they watched the sunset from the balcony, "when I got my diagnosis, I thought it was coming to an end. But now I realize it's just the beginning of something bigger." Samantha looked at him, intrigued. "Like this? This system we have developed here," he explained, "can change the lives of thousands of farmers in arid regions, but it needs someone with business acumen to take it forward on a large scale." Samantha's eyes widened as she realized the implication. "Are you suggesting a partnership?" Isaiah nodded. "Exactly. Your business experience matches our technology. Imagine the impact we could have." At that moment, something changed inside Samantha. The idea of using her talents for something greater than just personal profit lit a fire she didn't know existed. "Isaiah," she said, holding out her hand, "I think we have a deal." Meanwhile, Isaac and Sophia, who had watched the interaction from afar, exchanged hopeful looks. Perhaps, they thought, the wounds were healing. "I think I'm falling in love with country life," Isaiah smiled, his eyes shining with a mix of amusement and affection. "Careful, Samantha," soon I'll see you driving a tractor." Everyone laughed, including Samantha, who looked lighter and happier than Sophia remembered seeing in years. After lunch, while the others talked on the porch, Isaac took Sophia to a more private corner of the garden. "Sophia," he began, his heart racing, "these last few months have been crazy, haven't they? With everything that happened between our families and the farm project." Sophia nodded, smiling. "Yes, it was quite a roller coaster." Isaac took a deep breath, gathering his courage. "You know what? All of this just made me even more sure of what I want for our future." He knelt down, taking a small box out of his pocket. Sophia gasped, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "Sophia Martinez," Isaac said, his voice shaking with emotion, "will you do me the honor of marrying me?" Sophia's response was immediate and enthusiastic. "Yes, 1,000 times yes." The couple's screams of joy attracted the attention of others, who quickly joined in to celebrate the engagement. Isaiah, watching the scene with tears in his eyes, felt a wave of gratitude. Despite the illness that still consumed him, he was witnessing the beginning of a new chapter full of hope for his family. Samantha, in turn, surprised everyone by spontaneously hugging Isaiah. "Thank you," she whispered, "for teaching me the true value of things." As the sun set over the horizon, bathing the farm in golden hues, the group remained together, sharing stories, laughter and plans for the future. The farm, once a source of contention, was now the setting for an unlikely but deeply meaningful union. Isaiah, sitting in his favorite rocking chair, watched everything with a serene smile. He knew his time was limited, but he also knew he was leaving a legacy far greater than he had ever imagined, not just a thriving farm or innovative technology, but a close-knit family and an example of how forgiveness and understanding can transform lives. As the stars began to dot the night sky, Isaiah said a silent prayer of thanksgiving for every challenge faced, every lesson learned, and, most of all, for the opportunity to see love and hope blossom in a land once barren of prejudice and misunderstanding. The night wore on, but for everyone present, it was clear that this was just the beginning of a new and exciting journey. The year that followed Isaac and Sophia's engagement was marked by great changes and challenges. The startup created to develop and distribute Isaiah's irrigation system, called Water of Tomorrow, began to gain national recognition. Samantha, immersed in her new mission, surprised everyone with her dedication. She began to divide her time between the city and the farm, often preferring the country air to the comfort of her penthouse in the capital. On a particularly hot afternoon, Samantha and Isaiah were sitting in the shade of a large mango tree, discussing the latest developments on the project. "You know, Isaiah," Samantha began, a thoughtful tone in her voice, "sometimes I wonder what my life would be like if we hadn't met that day." Isaiah smiled, his wrinkles deepening around his eyes. "Fate has curious ways of working, doesn't it?" Samantha nodded, her eyes filling with unexpected tears. "I was so empty, always running after more money, more power, and now," she made a sweeping gesture toward the farm, "now I feel like I'm really making a difference." Isaiah gently placed his hand over hers. "You always had this potential within you, Samantha. Sometimes we just need a little push to see what really matters." Meanwhile, Isaac and Sophia were fully involved in the wedding preparations. They decided that the ceremony would be held on the farm itself, a symbol of unity not only between them, but between their families. One night, while they were working on the invitations, Sophia noticed Isaac being quieter than usual. "Is everything okay, love?" she asked, worried. Isaac hesitated before responding. "It's my father, Sophia. He is getting weaker every day. I'm scared that he won't be here to see our wedding." Sophia hugged her fiancé tightly. "Your father is the strongest man I have ever known, Isaac. He'll be there, I'm sure." Sophia's words were comforting, but the reality of Isaiah's condition hung over everyone like a dark cloud. The treatments were becoming increasingly difficult, and although he tried hard to keep his spirits up, it was clear that his health was deteriorating rapidly. It was in this context that Samantha had a bold idea. At a family meeting, she proposed, "What if we postponed the wedding? We could have an intimate ceremony right here on the farm." The suggestion was received with a mix of surprise and emotion. Isaac and Sophia exchanged glances, a silent conversation passing between them. "I think it's a wonderful idea," Isaiah said, his voice weak but full of emotion. "Nothing would make me happier than seeing my son get married." The decision was unanimous. In the days that followed, the farm became a whirlwind of activity. Staff and families came together to organize what promised to be a simple but deeply meaningful event. So, just 3 weeks later, under the same starry sky that had witnessed so many changes in their lives, Isaac and Sophia exchanged their vows. Isaiah, supported by Samantha, watched with tears in his eyes as his son began a new chapter of his life. The ceremony was a testament to the love and unity that had blossomed from such unlikely circumstances. As the newlyweds danced under the soft lights hanging from the trees, Isaiah watched the scene with a serene smile. "It was worth it," he muttered to himself. "Every moment was worth it." The months following the wedding were bittersweet. Isaiah's health continued to decline, but he faced each day with admirable determination. His passion for the Aguas do Ajante project seemed to give him extra strength, and he spent hours discussing ideas and plans with Samantha, Isaac and Sophia. One autumn morning, as golden leaves danced in the wind, Isaiah asked to be taken to the field where his irrigation system was first implemented. "I want to see the fruits of our labor one last time," he said, his voice weak but full of emotion. Samantha, who over the past few months had become a constant, comforting presence, pushed her wheelchair. Isaac and Sophia walked alongside, their hands intertwined. When they reached the field, the sight was breathtaking. Rows and rows of lush green plantations stretched as far as the eye could see, a living testament to the success of their invention. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Isaiah said, his eyes shining. "To think this can help so many people, so many families." Samantha knelt beside his chair, taking his wrinkled hand in both of hers. "It will help, Isaiah. His legacy will touch lives for generations." That night, gathered on the porch of the farmhouse, Isaiah asked to speak to everyone. "My darlings," he began, his voice weak but full of love, "I cannot express how grateful I am to have you in my life. Isaac, my son, you made me so proud. Sophia, you brought an extra light to our family. And Samantha," he paused, exchanging a meaningful look with her, "you taught me that it's never too late to change, to grow." He paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. The Aguas do Ajante project is more than a company or an invention. It is a symbol of how we can overcome our differences, of how love and understanding can blossom in the most unlikely of places. Isaiah looked at each of them, his eyes full of emotion. "Promise me that you will continue this work, that you will use it not just to generate profits, but to make a real difference in people's lives." Everyone nodded, tears flowing freely down their faces. In the weeks that followed, Isaiah became increasingly weak. But even in his final days, he kept his spirits high, always with a kind word or wise advice to offer. And then, on a still winter night, Isaiah Thompson passed away peacefully in his sleep, surrounded by those he loved. The funeral was a celebration of his life and legacy. Farmers from across the region came to pay their respects, many sharing stories of how Isaiah's generosity and inventions had changed their lives. As the coffin was lowered into the earth, Samantha approached Isaac and Sophia, who were embracing each other. "Your father," she said, her voice breaking, "taught me the true meaning of wealth. It's not about money or power, it's about the impact we leave on the world, the lives we touch." Isaac nodded, wiping away his tears. "And we will continue your work. Let's make his dream spread across the country, across the world, if we can." Sophia, with a protective hand over her slightly swollen belly, a surprise they had discovered just a few weeks earlier, added, "And we will make sure the next generation knows the story of their grandfather, the man who transformed not only the earth but also hearts." In the years that followed, Thompson Farm became much more than a simple country estate. It has transformed into a center for agricultural innovation, attracting researchers and farmers from around the world. The Aguas do Tomorrow project expanded, bringing hope and prosperity to regions previously considered uninhabitable. Samantha, now a doting grandmother, divided her time between business and precious moments with her extended family. She often found herself staring at the portrait of Isaiah hanging in the farm room, silently giving thanks for the man who had changed her life in ways she never could have imagined. Isaac and Sophia, now parents of 2 children, continued Isaiah's legacy with passion and dedication. They ensured that the story of their father, the simple farmer who dreamed big and then some, was passed on, inspiring future generations. And so, Thompson Farm has remained a living testament to how love, understanding and vision can transform lives and unite people from the most diverse backgrounds. Isaiah's legacy lived on not just in the green, productive fields, but in the hearts of all those he touched with his wisdom, kindness, and unconditional love.